Today, we're talking with Lee Chian, co-manager of the Keystone Positive Change Investment Trust. My name is Richard Land of Citywire, and I'm going to be talking to Lee for about 20 to 25 minutes about how he and co-manager Kate Fox run the trust. So, welcome, Lee. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Richard. It's good to be here.
It's a good time to talk to you because it's just about 3 years since you and Kate Fox, and indeed Bailey Gifford, took over running the trust. So how would you describe the changes you've made since taking over responsibility for this trust?
Yeah, so a quick reminder for everyone about the philosophy for Keystone Positive Change. Our aim is to satisfy two objectives. One is to generate attractive long-term investment return. And then the second objective is to contribute towards a more sustainable and inclusive society. On the investment objective, when we say attractive, we define that as outperforming the global equity benchmark by 2% per year over rolling 5-year periods. And when it comes to sustainability, we are focusing on investing in businesses that are delivering products and services needed for a more sustainable future. And examples of that include Moderna, which are leveraging on new medicine technology to deliver vaccine and a range of novel therapeutics, and company like Duolingo, which is improving language learning and education with their smartphone app, and Northvolt, Europe's leading battery startup, that is contributing towards expanding the supply of batteries, a critical component of a clean energy future. So when we took on the trust, there were 3 changes we made. First, we moved the trust from one that focuses on UK company to a global investment trust. So we can invest in companies across the world, no matter where they are, from the east coast of China to the west coast of US, and indeed anywhere in between of that. So we are opening up exciting investment opportunities to the trust shareholders. Second, we are focusing on companies that are contributing towards a sustainable future. We think this also helps to enhance our ability to deliver the financial objectives, because companies that are contributing to a better world, that are creating products and services needed for a sustainable future, are more likely to be met with stronger demands for their products and services. And they are also more likely to have loyal customers and more motivated employees, so they'll have a stronger competitive advantage. And then the third change is we have increased the investment in private companies. We viewed the closed-ended structure of the Keystone Positive Change as a unique ability to invest in private companies that are also making a positive impact on society. So today we have invested in 5 private companies with around 6% of the trust assets dedicated to private companies.
Excellent. So that is quite a radical makeover you've given the trust in the 3 years in charge. And you've talked a lot about those twin criteria that you're looking for, which is, one is great for your investors, one is great for the rest of us.
Yeah.
The big question is, how do you go about finding those? Because they're quite rare companies that can fulfill both briefs.
Yeah, so they are, to an extent, rare, but also encouragingly becoming more common as well. We are seeing more and more companies, and especially some of the startups today that are very mission focused, and it gives us optimism both about the future and our ability to invest in them. So in terms of how we go about and find company that satisfy both of the objective, it starts off with the idea generation. For Keystone Positive Change, there are 4 impact themes which help us to focus our attention in terms of searching for new companies on areas where businesses can have a positive impact. So the first impact theme is social inclusion and education, where we are looking for companies that are creating a fair society with a focus on access to information, education, and improving living standard in a sustainable and inclusive way. The second impact theme is environment and resource needs, where we are looking for companies that are reducing the negative environmental impact of human activities, as well as those companies that are improving access to basic resources like food and water. The third impact theme is health and quality of life, where we are looking for companies, including like Moderna, that are contributing to novel ways to improve how we are diagnosing and treating diseases. And finally, the last impact theme is base of the pyramid, where we are looking for companies that are meeting the basic and aspirational needs of people on low income across the world. So those are the four areas which the trust focuses on, and those four impact theme or lenses help us to focus our research on area that will more likely to meet our dual objective.
Excellent.
So that's the first part. And then the second part is our research process, which we think are very robust and differentiated. When we do our research, there is a dedicated investment research process and also a dedicated impact analysis. Those two research help us to analyze in depth a company's ability to deliver financial success, as well as their contribution towards a more sustainable future. The two research are done by two separate peoples to ensure that is objectivities in the analysis. And then those reports are presented to the team. Those are robustly debated. And we make sure that the investment and impact thesis are well tested before we make our investment decisions.
Right. So you mentioned when in the introduction companies like Duolingo, Mercado Libre, and you've also Remitly, which has done very well for you in the last year. All those companies have done well. What is the single common thread that you see running through companies like that?
Yeah, I think one common thread across those three companies is their mindset around disrupting the industry. And they are all managed by passionate founders who saw an opportunity to use technology and innovation and to improve how customers are served. So, use Remitly as an example, and this is a business that are improving remittance services for migrant workers across the world. So traditionally, if you want to send money back home to your family and friends, you have to go to a Western Union or a MoneyGram, one of those kind of offline branches hidden away in a corner shop. And you have to give them cash, they take your cash, and it can often take a couple of days before your family actually receive the money. And because the whole process is offline with different middlemen in between, it's also quite expensive. On average, 6% of the money are taken as a fee. And so for every $100 that's been sent, the recipient only gets about $94. What Remitly has done is using smartphone and mobile app to digitalize the whole experience. So people no longer have to go to an offline branch. Everything can be done on a smartphone app. This is much quicker, and most of their customers receive the payments in hours, not days. And it's also cheaper relative to the fees of a Western Union, and Remitly's fee is half of that. So a significant saving for customers. So I think those are companies where there are opportunities to leverage on technology to provide a service that's fundamentally and significantly better than the status quo. And all of those companies are successfully taking market share away from incumbents and legacy providers, and that are less well positioned to satisfy customer demand.
Excellent. So obviously it's great for you and Kate when companies come up with good news flow and growth and getting towards profitability or being profitable, like some of those. Less great when you have someone, we had the shock with Ørsted this year, a brilliant company trying to install wind power across the world. Terrible shocks about installations in the States and Europe. The share price fell. What do you do in a case like that? Do you double down? Do you get out, or how do you decide whether to carry on the investment in a company like that after a bad news event?
Yeah, so when a company faces an obstacle, which inevitably it happens to a lot of businesses, our approach is to revisit the fundamental of the company and go back to our core investment thesis and analyze them to see what has changed. So for Ørsted, what we did last year is when the bad news came out, we arranged calls with the company to find out the exact causes of the challenge. As we found out, quite a lot of that were happening in the US, where their projects were getting delayed due to permitting difficulties. And in an environment of high inflation and supply chain challenges, this is causing a negative valuation impact on those assets. So we try to understand in as much depth as possible the exact causes of challenge, and then trying to see whether those are near-term blips or an indication of much bigger problem that might derail our investment thesis. So for Ørsted, we review the long-term fundamental, the long-term growth opportunity. We are still convinced that building more offshore wind is necessary for us to meet our sustainability targets and expand access to clean and renewable energy. So we think the growth opportunity still exists. Where we then had much more question is around the capital allocation of the company. Why did the business kept investing in a lot of money in the US project and have committed capital to their supplier when they knew there were delays and difficulty with those projects? So our confidence and conviction on the management team able to continue to allocate money sensibly have diminished significantly. On the back of those review, we did exit the position for Ørsted because we have lost conviction on capital allocation. So there was a very robust research process behind it to review the investment case. It's not a decision that's taken lightly. We are not reactive to news flow, but when the investment update gives us reason to believe that the investment case has broken, we would move on and redeploy the capital to more attractive opportunities elsewhere.
Right. And just to stay on that for a second, you've left Ørsted, but you still have faith in the offshore wind sector. Are you looking at new investments there?
We continue to look for opportunities in the transition towards a renewable future, and we think there are investable opportunities. A good example, we briefly mentioned Northvolt, and the battery manufacturer based in Sweden, but is expanding rapidly in other regions and countries as well. We think the build out of a renewable energy system will mean significant of investment will go into this sector. And we think that there will be attractive investment opportunity like Northvolt, for example.
Excellent. Let's go back to some good news and talk about great investments. What is your favorite company right now in the portfolio?
Yeah, so one of my favorite company and one that might not be widely appreciated is Autodesk. And so Autodesk is a leading provider of design and construction software for the architecture, engineering, and manufacturing end markets. The construction and building industry is very inefficient. And there are a lot of waste every year. At the same time, buildings need to become more energy efficient as well, so that it uses less energy and are responsible for less emission as well. Autodesk helped to meet both of those objectives, and its design software are increasingly incorporating AI and machine learning to help architects to design more energy efficient buildings, to select materials that are more sustainable, and to reduce the environmental footprint of the buildings they design. At the same time, Autodesk is also releasing a range of construction-related software that help people who actually put up the buildings and to communicate and collaborate more effectively. And this helps to reduce errors, reduce waste, and as a result, reduce a lot of the negative environmental impact of the construction activity. This is a very high quality business with strong profitability and very attractive return on capital, and that are continuing to use innovation and technology to help customers to do more and meet their environmental and sustainability obligations. So we think the growth opportunity over the long term is very attractive.
Right. You mentioned the phrase artificial intelligence. We had to get it in there.
Sure.
So apart from Autodesk, where else are you seeing interesting applications of AI in the companies in your portfolio?
We do see it very widely, and sometimes in places you might not expect. And so we are seeing it in the agriculture area as well. So one of our investment in the portfolio is John Deere, which is the leading tractor and agriculture equipment manufacturer. It's increasingly using AI to improve the functionality of their equipment and embedding precision agriculture functions. And to give one example, they recently released a product series called See and Spray. So those are massive sprayers that are applying pesticides or insecticides onto crops. Those obviously help to improve crop health, but using loads of insecticide has obvious negative environmental impact. What the company do is that in front of that sprayer, there are now cameras, and the cameras combined with the computer chip and AI algorithm on the sprayer are able to, in real time, as the sprayer going over the field, spot which one is a weed and which one is a crop. And then the insecticide or the pesticides are only sprayed onto the weed and not onto the crop. And by doing that, they are able to reduce pesticide usage by 70%. So an incredible amount of saving, which is good for farmer profitability, also great for the environment as well. So this is an example where AI is being used in probably an area that you might not expect. But there are also a lot of software companies that are using that. And Duolingo is using AI, for example, to create a new subscription offering and higher priced, and that allow learners to leverage on AI to understand where they are making mistakes with their language learning and help them to improve feedback and get better at the language they are learning as well.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned both John Deere and Autodesk, which are both very old companies, and one would think they're subject to disruption. So, but it does seem like long-established companies can adapt, can fight off potential disruption in their sectors.
Yes, that's right. We do have a few companies which have very long operating records and very impressive record as well. And you're right, a lot of the time, kind of incumbents are at the risk of disruption. We have seen it in the automotive industry where Teslas and EV startups are becoming a real threat to the incumbent automakers like the Volkswagen or Ford or GM. But occasionally, we do see incumbent companies that, for various reasons, are very innovative and that are long-term thinking. And often, that long-term horizon is really important. And they are willing to invest significant amount of assets and resources into research and development to come up with products and services that continually meet the future need of their customers. So they are not just optimizing for profitability or near-term returns. They are really thinking about creating long-term values. And in those circumstances, they can be great long-term investments as well and have a positive impact on society. Very
interesting. So one striking thing in your recent update was obviously, we're now, the era of easy money is over, 0% interest rates are gone, and most people would see that as a setback for growth companies such as the ones you invest in.
Yeah.
You took a more positive spin on it in terms of shutting other people out.
Yes, so I think the move to higher interest rates, the immediate impact that we see is a clear multiple contraction and derating of growth equities, because they tend to have more of their cash flow will be coming from future activities that might be 5 or 10 years in the future. So they are being discounted much more aggressively with higher interest rates. But this is a near-term impact. I think there are actually a very interesting longer-term impact of higher interest rate is that with capital being more expensive, companies are forced to be much more rational around their business decision and capital allocation. You no longer see companies that are able to raise billions of dollars with a nice PowerPoint and then use that money to acquire customers with heavy subsidies and promotions. Companies actually need to start make a profit and be financially sustainable in an era of higher interest rate. So what that leads is more rational competition, which favors businesses with strong competitive advantage. They are able to leverage their cost advantage or other superiorities, and then able to gain market share and grow their profit and cash flow on the back of that. We have seen that in some of our companies. Mercado Libre is a good example. This is Latin America's largest e-commerce and fintech platform. And previously, you had a lot of new entrants into the market that are using aggressive promotions and subsidies to try and take market share. Now they are leaving the market or putting up their prices to try to make a profit. And Mercado Libre is now taking market share away from those smaller and less competitive players. So last year, Mercado Libre is able to gain market share and grow revenue and expand its profitability as well, and delivered a very good investment return. So we think that it'd be those longer-term impacts of higher interest rates, which will benefit high-quality growth companies that we invest in.
Excellent. Just before we move to questions from the audience, let's talk a bit about the private companies in your portfolio. It makes up about 6%, as you said, and you've talked a bit about Northvolt. What do you look for in private businesses? And perhaps, as you mentioned Northvolt, just maybe one of those other companies that you feel very happy about investing in.
Yeah, so we invested in a range of private companies. In addition to Northvolt, we also invested in Climeworks, which is a Swiss carbon removal company that's taking CO2 out of the air and burying that underground. We're investing in Boston Metal, which is commercializing a green steel technology that uses electricity rather than coal to produce steel. We also invest in Spyber, a Japanese synthetic biology company, and PsiQuantum, a quantum computing company. And so those are the five private companies in the portfolio. In general, we are looking for companies with more disruptive potential here, and they do tend to be a bit earlier stage than the listed companies in the portfolio, and they tend to be much more innovative or kind of radical in what they are pursuing. We're looking in for private companies which can be adding something additional to the portfolio that our listed equity holdings don't have exposure to. So, for example, with carbon removal, there is no pure listed company that are offering that. And with green steel, and this is still kind of a fairly early stage concept where there's no public company that are producing green steel. So we want to allocate a part of the trust into those companies which could have very disruptive potential in the future and support those businesses as they're trying to commercialize their technology.
Excellent. So we're going to move on to some readers' questions, and we've had a few come in. One is obviously you're not the only investment trust to be trading at a discount. It's very common at the moment. So what ways, this audience member asks, might you be looking at to narrow that discount?
So I think that's two things, one a near term and one that's longer term. So near term, we are doing a little bit of share buybacks because we do view the discounts on the trust and to the underlying NAV is very attractive. We are able to buy essentially shares in companies that we are excited at a discount by buying back shares. And we think that is sensible capital allocation for the trust to do that. So we are doing a bit of share buybacks to help to manage the discount. Over the long term, the discount will be driven by the demand for the trust. And I think what's really important is demonstrating the long-term investment and impact outcome of Keystone Positive Change. Since we took on the investment trust, we have undergone a very volatile period with conflict and higher interest rates. And that has been, as mentioned, very negative for growth equities. But also, as mentioned, we think that over the long term, the opportunity for those businesses can be very attractive. So we're continuing to focus on identifying and investing in great business over the long term. And as we prove the investment and impact objectives of Keystone, we believe that should help to attract more shareholders to the trust, and that should help to narrow the discounts as well.
Excellent. Okay, another question's come in. So someone says no one doubts the need for companies to keep the planet cool, and no one doubts your commitment to that. But is it not the case that the commitment to amongst investors at large to ESG concerns is waning a little, and people are seeking more immediate returns?
So I think investment interest in the near term can always be volatile and fluctuate, and depending on macroeconomic circumstances, on people's risk appetite, what is the investment flavor of the month or the year might change quite radically, and something really in favor today might be out of favor tomorrow. We just don't know. But what we do know is that if we want to have a habitable planet in the future for ourselves, for our children, and if we want to see a more fairer and equal society where everyone can flourish and do well, then we need to start address the challenges that we see today. We need to invest in renewable and clean energy. We need to invest in innovation so that we can better prevent ourselves from a pandemic like COVID again. We need to invest in upskilling and education so more people have the skill sets that's necessary for a rapidly changing work environment. And we believe over the long term, and the need to do that will create large investment opportunities for companies. And we continue to focus over those long-term prices and look for companies that are committed to tackle those.
Excellent. Just move on to a couple more questions. This one that's just come in. You've got a number of holdings in the biotech sector, which has had a tough time in recent years. What are your views on the outlook for biotech?
So indeed, the biotech sector has been challenging over the last 18 months. Part of it after COVID, and some of the COVID benefits have rapidly weaned off and diminished. But what we are really excited is the underlying innovation that is going on in the biotech sector. New technologies, including mRNA, gene editing, and even improving antibody therapies, those are able to help us come up with treatment for previously unmet diseases. There are loads of very talented scientists and entrepreneurs that are looking to convert knowledge that coming out of academia into the real world, into new drugs and new treatments that are curing cancer or helping us to prevent the next pandemic. So we are excited by the underlying technology innovation and that's happening. And we believe in the long term, as people are working on that, new and better treatment and diagnosis will come through, and that will create an enormous amount of fortune for successful companies. We saw it last year with Novo Nordisk, for example, when they had their GLP-1, that really is able to create a lot of value for that company. And we think that there will be other examples in the biotech sectors in the coming years.
So you're excited about biotech. We'll wrap up with a final question. What are the other sectors that particularly excite you about the future?
I think there are many sectors that are exciting, and in some way we are almost spoiled for choice, whether it's to think about the energy transition or healthcare or digital innovation or financial inclusion. There are just so many exciting investment opportunities. I think what's actually more important for making sure we do a good job for our shareholder over the long term is to focus on the business fundamentals, to make sure the companies that we pick are the likely winners and that have a competitive advantage or have the realistic prospect of building a business model that has competitive advantage, so they can actually earn economic profit and attractive return on their investments. So I think that is the common thread and that we are really focusing on. And I think if we can really pick those companies that have the competitive advantage and can be the future winners, there are just so many sectors and themes and trends out there which will provide an attractive investment prospects.
Brilliant. Well, on that optimistic note, I'm afraid we've got to end there. So thank you very much for your time and your insights, Lee. We do have more sessions like this coming up, so please do keep an eye out for those if you found today's meeting useful. Until the next time, goodbye.